Well, the DA has described its much-anticipated meeting with the ANC over the budget impasse as constructive. Federal Council Chairperson Helen Zille says negotiating teams representing both parties engage robustly but in a respectful manner.
The Democratic Alliance met its counterparts in the African National Congress today. It was a fruitful meeting in which we spoke very frankly around the issues that had led to the budget impasse. The DA reiterated its opposition to a VAT increase, particularly in the absence of any meaningful reform plan that will lead to economic growth and many more jobs being created. We agreed that it was very important to have mechanisms whereby these issues can be resolved timeously, and that the mechanisms of the foundational statement of intent need to be built upon in order to make the GNU work more functionally.
Now, to talk more about the meeting between the ANC and the DA, we're joined by a political analyst from Northwest University Business School, Dr. Pieter Croucamp. A very good evening to you. Thank you so much for your time. Dr. Croucamp, as we try and make sense of the very little details that we have, what we do know from, really getting a sense from both sides, ANC is saying there's still uncertainty around this. The DA talking about how it was a fruitful meeting and really an agreement that it was constructive. What should we make of these little bits and pieces?
The DA is going nowhere. I think that what the ANC is saying, that we can't speak on behalf of the DA. They initially threatened or suggested insinuated that they might withdraw from the agreement. But if you follow the conversation, and I think we know enough of what has happened and what has been discussed just by listening to Helen Zille, it's clear that they have reached agreement, that the statement of intent will be consolidated. It might be supported by initiatives to resolve issues before it becomes part of a dispute. So it looks like the DA got what it wanted in terms of the extent to which the ANC is willing to take the original statement of intent more seriously. I don't know that they, as far as I know, that they have reached consensus or agreements on issues like VAT, for instance. But it seems like tomorrow in the Sunday Times there will be an announcement that the ANC is reconsidering the issue of VAT, but that could be based on the agreement with Action South Africa and the resistance of other political parties. But it seems like there may be some movement from the ANC on the VAT issue.
Yeah, because what the DA has reiterated even today, even in the statement, even in interactions, is that their position that a VAT increase is simply unaffordable in the absence of a meaningful reform that will increase economic growth and create jobs. They've really stuck to that statement of the issue on VAT. In exploring some of the options, when you talk about the probabilities about what may come from what outcome we may be seeing tomorrow, where is the room for navigation when it comes to the VAT?
Look, if you want to change the agreement or what appeared before the National Assembly, the conventional wisdom is that you need a new bill. But I've heard that it's quite possible that the minister can withdraw it, the original Treasury of the Act as well. And I'm not sure if that is legal, because from my reasoning, it is if once the National Assembly has agreed on that particular bill, it will need another act to change that. But I am told that it's also possible that a court case can, for instance, intervene and requires that the bill is not according to particular procedures, and then it can be withdrawn. So, but those permutations are neither here nor there. The question is the ANC willing to reconsider the increase in VAT? And it looks like, not only based on the talks with the DA, but with other political parties, there's enough of a resistance And there's a lot of political mileage in it for them if they do change their minds on the increase in VAT. So it looks like they're reconsidering it. The Sunday Times is going to write about it extensively tomorrow. They seems to have evidence that the ANC is indeed considering it. It's not just the process and procedure according to which it will be withdrawn that needs to be discussed, I guess.
When you talk about the pros, the political miles that could come with making this decision, having a change of heart, I mean, what could come of it?
Look, the VAT increase is relatively insignificant. It's an incredibly small amount of money we're actually talking about, even though if you are the lower end of the socioeconomic scale, it might have a broader impact on you. The real problem is the fact that the minister is not prepared to address the issue of bracket creep. A lot of people are going to pay an enormous amount of money and taxes, new taxes, additional taxes, just because the minister didn't adjust the issue of bracket creep in the budget. That has a much bigger consequence for the working class, for instance, and for the middle class in South Africa. But that don't seem to be that much of an issue. It is weird and strange that the VAT issue is such a big one, since it's such a small amount of money that you're actually talking about. But I think it's because that VAT will impact the unemployed, the people on grants, the people who have get remittances, for instance. They will be impacted by it, even though it's small. Just remember that their income is very limited, so it could have proportionally a much bigger influence on them. But the elephant in the room is the bracket creep, and the elephant in the room, as far as the DA is concerned, is the fact that the ANC does not employ the type of policies which will actually encourage capital to invest in South Africa, creating employment opportunities. And if you just think about the last 12, I think it's around about 12 years, South Africans, the per capita, has become poorer. We're now poorer than we've been 12 years ago, and even earlier on average. And I think it's because it's unlikely that there will be any economic growth this year, or maybe 1%, maybe less than 1%. That won't address inequality in South Africa, poverty in South Africa, employment in South Africa. And most political parties have made that point. The ANC must, in some other way, present a budget that encourages foreign capital or investors to invest in South Africa and create opportunities in the economy.
What we also do know is that the DA has been demanding a greater say in the GNU. How do we place that in the midst of the pressing challenges?
It makes sense. Just remember the government, the individuals, ministers must defend government policies. If they are being left out of that, the formulation of policies, how do you expect Dean McPherson or Warube, for instance, to defend government policies that she wasn't part of, she was excluded from? And I don't know why it is so difficult for the ANC to say that we will formulate policy on the basis of a government of national unity as opposed to be on the basis of what is good for the ANC. Especially since, and I think there's this general agreement, it is very likely that if you're more pragmatic, less ideological about economic policy in South Africa, you might actually see a greater degree of confidence, and you might even say the inflow of capital and foreign investment into the economy. There's a lack of trust. South Africa, and the president has said it in so many words, there's a trust deficit between the government and the private sector, between foreign capital and the South African government. And you have to bridge that in some other way. And one way of doing it is to allow policy, economic policy, to be more pragmatic, to allow it to be the result of a conflation of ideas between what the DA represents, the free market type of economy, and what the ANC represents, which is a more mixed type of economy. It is quite possible to reach agreement about economic policies that will benefit all South Africans, and it will benefit the poor, and it will provide employment opportunities. I'm not 100% sure why the ANC insists on following policies that has led us where we are now. We have 40% unemployment, and it's very unlikely that we will change this around in the next 3 to 5 years. I think my friend Mike Schuessler once said to me, and that's a depressing statistic, of all the people that are 19-year-old this year, everybody that's 19-year-old, 50% of those young people will not find a job in the formal sector in their entire lifetime.
Wow.
Unless we change the policies, that will hold true for this generation, for the next 10 years, they will not find, half of them will never find employment in the private sector in their whole lifetime. And just remember, there's no more positions in government available as well, which means this 40% unemployment that we have, the 60% youth unemployment that we have will continue to define the South African labour market and the South African economy.
Very well. Thank you so much for weighing in the discussion. Some interesting revelations there, DA. Speaking there, pardon me, to political analyst from the Northwest University of Business School, Dr. Pieter Croucamp.